Okay, it is 4:20 and we are calling it back into order. If you're watching on YouTube, all you have to do is refresh your browser. So please do that. But we're calling the meeting back to order, and we're going to go to my good friend, Director Emily Miller, on agenda number 18. Director Miller, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you very much, Chairman Gann. Our subcommittee report for the Legislative Policy Subcommittee was posted to board effect on September 11th and is posted with the board materials on the website and summarized in a chart in the second tab. Please navigate there if you would like to follow along. The Legislative Policy Subcommittee met via Zoom on 3 dates, August 10th, August 12th, and the 14th, to consider the proposals submitted from the sections. We received proposals from 6 sections, including business law, entertainment and sports law, family law, juvenile law, LGBT law, and real estate, probate, and trust law, or REPTL. On our final day, we heard from members and representatives from other sections who wished to speak against or comment on the proposals. The legislative submission and review process is set out in Section 8 of the board policy and requires that sections circulate proposals to all other sections and committees for review and or comment, review by our legal counsel, a live or Zoom presentation to the subcommittee, analysis by the subcommittee, recommendations by our committee, and presentation at today's board meeting. The Legislative Policy Subcommittee report includes a table of contents with the captions of the proposals, all the submission materials received for each proposal, and the subcommittee's recommendations. Per board policy, in making our subcommittee recommendations, we took the following votes. Number 1, that each of the policies conform with the requirements of Section 8.01.03 of the board policy. If the proposal passes the first question, the subcommittee votes to recommend whether to support, remain neutral, or oppose the proposed legislation. We did not have any requests to oppose legislation, so our recommendations today are to either allow these sections to support the legislation or to remain neutral. We'll be making those same 2 motions on each proposal today. The Legislative Policy Subcommittee recommends support of 26 of the proposals and 1 in the name of the Entertainment and Sports Law section, and remain neutral on 1 proposal from the Family Law section. 1 proposal was withdrawn by the REPTL section. Business Law brought us 1 proposal, which we voted to support. Entertainment and Sports Law had 1 proposal, which we voted to support as well, in the name of the Entertainment and Sports Law section. Family Law had 12 proposals, and we supported 11 proposals and voted to remain neutral on 1. Juvenile Law brought 1 proposal, which we voted to support. LGBT Law had 2 proposals, and we voted to support all LGBT proposals. REPTL had 3 real estate proposals and 7 estate planning proposals, with 1 being withdrawn. We voted to support all REPTL proposals. First, I will make the procedural motion that all the proposals complied with our policy, and then we will move to the positions on the proposals themselves. Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the Legislative Policy Subcommittee's recommendation that the 27 proposals included in our report comply with Section 8.01.03 of the board policy.
Coming from the committee, it requires no second. I see no hands for discussion. All those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
I hear one nay. And Director Cortez Maras, did I understand you to say nay there?
I said aye, but I meant to say nay.
Fair enough. All right. So we have one nay vote, and motion passes. Director Cortez Maras, you had your hand up for some discussion. Did you have something you want to say?
I do. And this is in reference to the LGBT law section proposals that are in tab 16 and 17.
This was the procedural, Director Cortez Maras, this is just the procedural portion. So I think that might be better kept for the next motion that's about to arise. Is that okay?
I'll hold it.
Okay,
yes.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Motion passes. Director Miller, your floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ms. Cortez Maras, for waiting for just a moment. If there are no objections, I will now make a motion to adopt all of the Legislative Policy Subcommittee's recommendations to the group, unless there are any members that wish to discuss the provisions individually. And it sounds like Ms. Cortez Mares, you'd like to discuss a proposal individually.
Let's say this, Director Cortez Mares, aside from the, I believe you said with the LGBT section, is that correct?
That's correct.
16 and 17. Outside of those two, are you okay with the remaining designations going forward, or is it just those two you want to discuss?
The answer is yes to your compound question.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Any other discussion about any of the motions aside from the LGBTQ? All right. So I guess, Director Miller, maybe another motion that for the rest of them, I guess with those out of it, is that okay? Are you okay to do that?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Before we get into that discussion, I will make a motion on the remainder of the recommendations, and that is all the proposals other than the two LGBT section legislative proposals.
All right. Coming from the committee, there is no need for a second. Is there any discussion on the remaining? Hearing none, seeing none. All those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
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 Any nays? Motion so passes. Okay, so let's go back to those two. And Director Cortez Mares, I understand you have some discussion, so you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The tabs 16 and 17 that are proposed by the LGBT section are ideological and political. There are references to two cases in Mark Adams Brown letter that merit some discussion. Obergefell simply stands for the holding that U.S. Constitution requires states to recognize same-sex marriages. Lawrence is a case that involves two males and their ability to express themselves in a private setting. What these tab 16 and 17 do or attempt to do is to extend these two U.S. Supreme Court cases to a vast majority of the Texas Family Code involving children. And I do not see where these holdings, these two Supreme Court case holdings, do that. We are required to follow the law, of course, and we're required to uphold justice and the administration of justice, but furthering these two cases, expanding the definition of these two cases and the intent of the Supreme Court in these two cases to require a substantial overhaul of the Texas Family Code that involves all the definitions involving children is definitely taking it way above a simple interpretation of these two cases and a simple application of these two cases. And in so doing, I believe that that would be an ideological or political position. And I would urge my fellow directors to take a look at the extensive letter that Mark Adams Brown wrote. While I don't agree with the entire letter or his entire position, I think it's a very valid point that he is making with regards to Lawrence and Obergefell cases as they relate to extending those cases to children. And I don't believe those cases do extend to children. So that is my position on this, and I would welcome input from other directors.
Director Kim Wilson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman Gann. I'm a family law practitioner, and I would say that the requested changes with regard to the family code are something that as a practitioner in light of Obergefell are a long time overdue. So I recognize that there may be some regardless of your personal belief, I don't think it's ideological when the United States Supreme Court has defined marriage as between two people, not just between a man and a woman, but our Texas Family Code says otherwise. So I recognize, and I am fully, I'm fully in support of the State Bar not taking political positions. I don't want to be in the position to cause problems with our mandatory bar status. On the other hand, we have statutes that are clearly written in a way that is unconstitutional as defined by the United States Supreme Court. So while I appreciate maybe some concern that we not go off on that tactic, it looks to me as though these proposals, and I'm just going to pull out one, under the Texas Family Code currently, spouse is defined as a husband who is a man or a wife who is a woman. And Obergefell clearly states that is not the legal definition of spouse in this country. It creates some problematic issues as a family law practitioner when we have one definition that is clearly constitutional and we have another definition under the state that might cause some issues. And these do create practical problems from the family law section. So I don't really see these as ideological or political. I see these changes as in line with what the United States Supreme Court has said. There's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Director Wilson.
And it's worth 2 cents.
Thank you, Director Wilson. Director Miller, I understand that you have some folks you want to call on. Is that correct?
That is correct, Chairman Ginn, and I will let Ms. Cortez Matos know that we did hear from Mr. Brown in person at the subcommittee, and he did give us a live presentation, and we were able to engage in a dialogue with him on that same day. We do have a representative from the LGBT section, one of the gentlemen that made the proposal to us back in August, and that's Michael Debnam. And I would like for him to be able to address some of your concerns.
All right. Are you on our call, sir?
Yes, I am, Mr. Chair.
All right. The floor is yours.
I must say, Ms. Cortez, first of all, when I tuned in, I'd missed a lot of what you said. So I don't want to come across that I am not addressing your specific concerns because I didn't hear most of them. What I would say is I would mirror most of what Ms. Wilson said. I'm also a family law practitioner. I work largely in this area, and our section went to great lengths previously to limit the changes to the family code solely to make the code consistent with the Obergefell. There are a lot of other problematic provisions in the family code that the LGBTQ community would love to see changed, and frankly, so would the practitioners, because there are gaping holes related to the LGBTQ community. But we go to great lengths to ensure that we do not overstep that political line, and that is the #1 thing we keep in mind. I could talk about the presumptions and other areas where they don't they don't relate to marriage. We only change the terms that relate to marriage and to bring it consistent with the rulings of Obergefell and Pavon, and that affects the Texas case, of course, De Leon v. Perry. If you have specific concerns, I'm willing to hear them, but I don't want to just keep talking.
Mr. Chairman, can I address Mr. Debnam?
Yes, you sure can. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Ginn. Mr. Debnam, the concerns I have are not related to the U.S. Constitution requiring states to recognize same-sex marriages. So with regards to the provisions that you're suggesting are changed in the Texas Family Code that are in connection with the marriage between a man and a woman and changing that wording, I'm definitely in favor of that. Where I am not in favor is extending all the changes to children, which is not what Obergefell, it's my understanding, that's not what Obergefell stands for. Changing that definition as to what is a parent or what's a mother, what's a father, How do you, conservatorship issues? Those are vast changes in the Texas Family Code. Conservatorship issues involving a parent and child are vast changes in the Texas Family Code. And those are what I'm asking you if you could please address. How does Obergefell substantiate those types of changes in the Texas Family Code?
Well, and what I don't want this to turn into, Director Cortez Mars, is a cross-examination or anything. And I'm not insinuating you're doing that, so don't take it that way. This is up for discussion, and I think it's good for responses. But is there any other response from any other discussion from the board? And I'm so sorry, Michael, if I mispronounce your last name. Is it Debnan?
Debnam. It's a difficult name. Don't worry about it.
Debnan. Well, listen, my last name's Ginn, and I get difficult name. People mispronounce me all the time, so I appreciate it and feel your pain. Would you like to respond to that? I don't want to turn this into a cross-examination or a debate, but if you want to respond, you can. If not, we'll take other comments from other directors.
I will respond very briefly
Okay.
with extreme brevity, because I think a lot of it's already been said, and I don't want to waste anyone's time. And what I'll say is, there are a lot of provisions of the Family Code related to parentage and conservatorship that are inherently tied to marriage. And that requires change under the Supreme Court opinion, and all the family courts in Texas are struggling with it, but they are applying the law mostly correctly in line with the Supreme Court ruling. So I think there's nothing as a practical matter, these changes are largely happening, but they are still causing problems in the courts because we have to educate the court every time we go in there. And for a lot of courts, they don't see this issue as often. And again, with conservatorship specifically and parentage, we could have gone a lot farther, but we limited it to the extent of the ruling of Obergefell and Pavon, and we did not go any farther. So I won't go any farther than that because I haven't heard any specific sections you want me to address. So I'll pass it. Director Ginn, thank you.
Thank you very much for your time and for your comments and for being here. We appreciate that very much. Director Fisher, the floor is yours.
I certainly appreciate taking the position. It may not be popular, but I think the practical effectiveness is we need to change as much of the statutes as possible to reflect Obergefell, because what will happen will be some judge will come next year, this year, 2 years, and they'll look at something and they'll say, yeah, but the Supreme Court decided, yeah, but this is still Texas law currently. So we have to align them and make it fair and not have to suffer for someone to have to appeal, or, not every judge is an expert, even though we'd like that. So I understand your concern, but I think they're doing it correctly and doing it to be accurate rather than political. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Fisher. Media Past President, Mr. Randy Sorrells, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. I just had a question, and you can clarify either Kaylin or Emily or somebody. There's a process I know with this committee where you investigate or determine whether or not it's political or ideological. And I didn't know if there was any close calls on it, because I don't want to be political or ideological either, but I don't want to be back in the last century either.
Kaylin is going to respond to that. If you're okay with that, Director Miller.
Of course, thank you.
Yes, Randy, this went through through our legal counsel's office, and then the committee discussed that at length, and both of these have been in the package previously as well. So part of it several times back to 2005. I believe Michael can tell us for sure what years probably, but they've both been in the package multiple times.
Does that answer your question, sir?
It does, Chairman Charlie. Can I call you the Chairman Charlie?
It's better than TT. All right. Any other discussion today? All right. Director Forbes, the floor is yours.
So the only concern I had is that, so I reviewed the April 2018 meeting when the same Proposition 16 and 17 were proposed, and they passed with no abstention and no no's. My only concern was the introduction of a lawsuit which happened after. It was filed on March 6, 2019, which made me think maybe it might trigger that the proposed legislation or legislative action does not carry the potential of deep philosophical or emotional division among a substantial segment of the membership of the bar. But I've since reflected and believe that it is consistent. So I just wanted to add that bit.
Thank you, Director Forbes. Checking on one thing really quickly, but while I'm doing that, in answer to you, 1 second. Mr. Sermon, would you please address Ms. Forbes' remarks? John, if you're there, you're on mute.
Yeah, thanks, Charlie. Yeah, so we actually did address 2018 proposal in our response to the McDonald case, and we're comfortable with this proposal, even with that case in place.
Thank you, Mr. Sermon. Any other discussion on this point, Director Forbes?
I just wanted to echo, that's what I meant, that that I feel comfortable with it, even in light of the lawsuit, so.
Okay, thank you, Director Forbes. Any other discussion today? Director Cortez Mares, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just briefly, a question for Mr. John Sermon. I heard you say section 18, but did you review tabs 16 and 17, which are the ones that are currently being proposed? And are they not, in your opinion, ideological or political?
I'll let John answer this, but I think he's referring to tab 18 on the agenda when he says that, Yolanda, but I will let John Sermon answer that.
That's right, I'm referring to the LGBT proposals.
Okay. Specifically what we have just discussed.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
All right, any other discussion on this matter? Hearing none, seeing none, there's a motion on the floor from the committee that requires no second. All those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
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 All opposed by nay?
Nay.
All right, 1 nay. Director Yolanda Cortez Mares, motion passes. Director Miller, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman Gann. And thank you for your consideration of these proposals. I know it's no small matter to look through these and read through these for the first, even for the first time. So thank you very much for doing so. I have no further motions as far as our subcommittee is concerned, but I would like to thank the board for entrusting us with this process. And thank you also to the subcommittee members for their diligent review of the proposed legislation. And a special thank you to Christina McGuire and of course, Kaylin Laney for ensuring a smooth ride for our subcommittee. And of course, the sections put in extraordinary work for their proposals, which includes many of you on the board who are also active in your sections. So thank you very much for that. And our very best wishes to the section as they move forward on their proposals. And that concludes our subcommittee report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Director Miller, and I know how hard you and your committee have worked on this. This is one of our busiest committees, and your leadership is just fantastic, as always. So thank you for all that you do, and for your committee as well. We have already discussed item number 19, Sherry Goldsberry's report, which takes us to item number 20. Director Wendy Adele Humphrey, you have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you, Chair Gann. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Wendy Adele Humphrey, one of the at-large directors who has the privilege to serve on this board. I want to start by first thanking President-elect Sylvia Firth for wearing the red and black as UT plays Texas Tech. I know somewhere in there you're actually rooting for the Red Raiders, so thanks for that, Sylvia. This update is really to give you just an overview of the process that occurs to fill the upcoming at-large director position that will come open next June. So that's June of 2021. In general, we have 4 at-large directors who are appointed by the President of the State Bar of Texas. My term will be ending next summer. I do want to thank former President Tom Vick for appointing me a few years ago. And so I want you to understand your role in this important process. The criteria and process for selection of the next at-large director is advertised in a variety of places. It's on the State Bar website, it's in Board Effect, and there have been emails and notices in the Bar Journal, emails sent out to committees, sections, specialty bars, past presidents, and of course to our current board members. We want to get the word out to as many Texas lawyers as possible so that those who are interested in serving the membership have the opportunity to submit an application. The application includes a basic application as well as a nomination letter from a third party, a resume, 3 to 5 recommendation letters, and a brief personal statement. That entire nomination packet is reviewed by the selection committee, which is comprised of myself, directors Andy Almanzan, TYLA President Brittany Harrison, Michael Smith, and Kimberly Wilson. After reviewing the materials and interviewing the candidates, we will then propose 2 of them to President McDougall, who will ultimately make his recommendation and an appointment. And the confirmation will then occur by the entire board at the April board meeting. So that is the process. Again, the main thing at this point is that we as board members get the word out. It's usually a very competitive pool, and we want that to continue so that the next appointed at-large director contributes significantly to the board. That is my report. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Wendy Adele. It's always great to see you. Thank you for your leadership on this committee and for getting the word out. With apologies to Director Andy Almanzan, I'm going to skip you and come right back to Director Rebecca Brooker. Director Brooker, you've got the floor. Are you with us?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Charlie. Wanted to give a brief report and really give some good news and ask or plea for some help. I wanted to emphasize how committed the State Bar is to helping Texas lawyers during this uncertain time. Since June 1st, Texas Bar CLE has provided more than $225,000 in complimentary CLE to legal aid lawyers. And they've delivered more than $1.4 million. Again, that's $1.4 million in free online CLE courses to Texas lawyers. We're continually adding several free courses. So please let members in your district know to check with the Texas Bar CLE and see what courses are coming available and encourage them to take it. Generally, the first 3 months of the State Bar fiscal year are when Texas Bar CLE brings in the most of its year's revenue. That's largely due to big advanced seminars that take place. However, COVID has impacted the Texas Bar CLE. Revenue has been down since the start of the pandemic, largely due to the influx of free CLE. I think it's already been mentioned at some point in the meeting that Texas Bar CLE is offering 6.5 hours of free CLE. Also due to extensions in the MCLE compliance dates and lawyers and law firms really just tightening their belts on expenses. Revenue's down from the budgeted projections for not only webcasted seminars, but also for online classes and sponsorship. And as our President-elect's report reflected, I believe 32% of the revenue of the bar comes from Texas Bar CLE. So we're trying to make up the lower revenue by a reduction in hotel and travel expenses, but the situation can change daily. So we're monitoring and we're adjusting as needed. A few adjustments that we have made. Texas Bar CLE has converted all live seminars to a webcast format through the end of the 2020 calendar year. And I hope you'll join me in outreach to your membership and encouraging those members in your district to take CLE with the Texas Bar CLE, so that you know, and what you can tell them is that even though they're live seminars using a webcast format, the content is still the same. And an interactive chat feature allows CLE attendees to communicate with others in the conference, as well as speakers during the program. And as a bonus, the attendees can watch from anywhere on a computer or a mobile device. And if they're unable to attend the live broadcast, the recording is available right away to watch on demand at their leisure. For those like me who prefer to get the hard copy books, and I know not everyone does, but I do, if requested, Texas Bar CLE shipping those books out free of charge to attendees prior to the CLE program. Because we don't want to be a cost barrier to our members in receiving high quality CLE, Texas Bar CLE, as I know many of you know, offers full and partial scholarships for CLE programs. Please let your members know this. Know that scholarship application are available. The process is easy, it's fast, and importantly, it's confidential. Since June 1st of this year, Texas Bar CLE has issued, I believe, more than $106,000 in scholarship for CLE. And during the first 8 months of 2020, Texas Bar Books granted $17,000, almost $500 in scholarships, and provided more than $40,000 worth of free material to pro bono organizations and law libraries. Finally, the board PDP subcommittee will jointly meet with the CLE committee on October 27th. We'll discuss new topics for CLE and programs and publications and so forth at that time. And that concludes my report.
Great job, Director Booker. We appreciate you and your committee's work on this, and looking forward to hearing more of the great things you'll be doing over this next year. All right, Director Andy Almanzon, I'm sorry I skipped you. With Member Services and Education Committee, the report's it's your floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Appeals and Grants Review Subcommittee received a request for authorization to seek outside funding. The materials for this request are located in Board Effect under Agenda Item 21A. Board policy requires internal entities such as committees and TYLA to obtain approval from Appeals and Grant Committee in order to seek outside funding. The request was submitted by the Diversity in the Profession Standing Committee of the Bar. They sought authorization to seek grant funding from the Texas Bar Foundation. The grant will fund a project called Bar Exam Preparation Scholarship. This scholarship facilitates the transition into the legal profession for law students from backgrounds that are traditionally underrepresented in the profession by helping defray the financial burden of preparing for the Texas Bar Exam. This year, several scholarships will be awarded in the form of stipends and/or credit towards bar prep course costs. Third-year law students who attend an ABA accredited Texas law school and who are preparing for the 2020 Texas Bar Exam are eligible for this scholarship. Selection criteria include, but are not limited to, academic achievement, financial need, involvement in community and extracurricular activities, including student organizations and affinity groups, and leadership experience. The Appeals and Grants Subcommittee unanimously approved this request to seek funding from the Texas Bar Foundation for this project. There will be no state bar funds used for this program. No action is required by the board. This is a report item only, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Andy, for your report and for the work that your committee is doing. Director Carmen Rowe, our chair of the Insurance Member Benefits Subcommittee, you have the floor.
Good afternoon. I'm Carmen Rowe. I'm excited to chair this committee. As you can see, we have a large group of hardworking and dedicated directors in this committee, and we expect to get a lot done this year. The Texas Private Insurance Exchange, or PIE, is the exclusive health exchange for the Texas legal community. The program allows members to obtain major medical or any ancillary insurance benefits they're looking for. This program allows them to access anything a broker can offer with the added benefit of complimentary benefits exclusive to this program and Texas lawyers. Even if you don't join the program as a Texas lawyer, members can receive up to $10,000 for accident, death, and dismemberment at no cost. We will continue to make this information available to our members and to make sure that we get information out so that we can meet those needs and they can make the best choices using this program or any other. If you or your firm hasn't received a quote, I highly recommend at least looking into this program to get health benefit rates and other great opportunities that are made available to your firm. We're also very interested in your feedback so we can do better and continue to monitor this program. The 2021 health insurance open enrollment period will begin to run from November 1st, 2020 to December 15th. Typically, there are presentations conducted around the state. This year, like everything else, they will be done via Zoom. The presentations currently are scheduled for September 28th, September 30th, and October 2nd. We're likely to add presentations to the already scheduled ones, but keep in mind that these presentations will also include questions and answers. So we encourage you to participate and attend these presentations so that you can get answers to questions, again, whether you use this program or not. The program continues to grow. Between 2019 and 2020, total product enrollments grew by 27%, from 41,000 in 2019 to approximately 52,000 in 2020. This chart shows the significant growth of the program since the exchange was created. Every other year, the State Bar conducts a customer satisfaction survey. This year, we will be conducting that survey, and at the end of the fiscal year, we'll be reporting those results back to this board. This year, we've set up some annual goals. In addition to monitoring the program, we will also be reviewing the program as a whole in the hopes of making improvements where we can. Some of those will include focusing on evaluating solo health insurance coverage that exceeds individual health insurance options. We're looking at some of the barriers as well as opportunities in that area. We also want to create an awareness campaign that will specifically target the needs of solos and members over 50 to get the kind of information that's specifically targeted to them so they can access what's available. Membership benefits will be synthesized to better focus our aim on the benefits that are going to be available to members so that we can get the information out there in a better format. And then last but not least, implementation of a standardized annual membership report, which again gives everyone the opportunity to have good information. I will report our findings on all of these at the end of this year as well. It is anticipated that the program will still generate roughly $1 million in non-dues revenue this fiscal year. However, we are going to monitor the impact of COVID. As of August, visits to the benefits page on the website are down by about 1%. However, no surprise, travel's been impacted by 54% decline in visits. However, travel has little impact on our revenue. At the same time, offers that help members work from home have seen an increase in traffic. We're going to continue to make efforts to educate our members about available benefits they have as members of the State Bar of Texas. Last year, Randy Sorrells and Jerry Alexander and other board members put together a 30 benefits in 30 minutes. It was wildly successful, and we plan to continue to look for opportunities to continue these types of opportunities and efforts to benefit our members. We have a great committee this year, ambitious plans to do big things with member benefits. If you have any questions, thoughts, or suggestions for our committee, please reach out to myself or any committee member because we're here to help. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Carmen, and for your committee. This is a big committee, and it's one that's important that we get the word out, and you're doing a great job on that. So thank you very much. Our next committee is the Technology Oversight Subcommittee with Chair Christina Davis. Director Davis, are you with us?
Thank you, Chair Ginn. Can everyone hear me?
We sure can.
I do want to take a minute just to share a moment of humorous irony that the chair of the Technology Oversight Subcommittee is having technological issues right now to get her report. I have a short report to share with you today on the progress of several projects that are underway at the State Bar of Texas. The IT department has completed the deployment of Microsoft 365 to all State Bar staff. This project has been instrumental in providing communication and collaboration between staff during the pandemic. Staff has used the platform to make thousands of calls and hundreds of meetings happen over the last 6 months. A new Dell data backup system has been installed and has been operational for the past month. This system is a huge improvement over its predecessor by allowing the State Bar to protect and manage data more efficiently, also allowing for a faster recovery time in the event of a disaster. Audio-visual renovations at the Texas Law Center are in their final stages. Maybe one day we will all get to see those. The complete overhaul of Room 101 and the board's room audio-visual system has been completed. The IT and video team are now in the testing phase to ensure proper operation. These upgrades will enhance the overall CLE experience in Room 101 and allow for video conferencing in the boardroom. The new advertising review online portal is nearing completion. This portal will allow attorneys to submit advertising media online and pay fees. We expect this to be a great benefit for Texas attorneys by simplifying the submission process, giving real-time status updates, and improving overall communications. Finally, I wanted to mention a few projects that we have slated for the next calendar year. First, the virtual server system that houses over 60 servers for the State Bar operations is being replaced. Second, we will be redesigning the look and feel of the texasbar.com website, which is a project we are hoping to get the Technology Oversight Subcommittee involved with. And lastly, developing a new event registration site for the annual meeting and poverty law conferences. Thank you all very much. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Director Davis, and thank you for doing what it takes to get on the call, even with those technological issues that you're experiencing.
No problem.
Director Miller, your floor to talk about our section representatives. Thank you.
Thank you again, Chairman Gann. The sections are continuing to do really great work. They have become particularly important during this public health crisis. And in addition to working with Texas Bar CLE to produce and promote the advanced CLE courses throughout the summer and fall, our sections are providing ongoing web-based trainings and publications designed to help their memberships navigate the virtual practice of law. Bankruptcy, labor and employment, tax, Hispanic issues, and child protection law have all have monthly free webinars for their members. A number of sections also have held or plan to hold free implicit bias trainings for members. In August, we held the new chair and treasurer's orientation. Because the orientation was virtual, we opened it up to all section officers and had nearly 140 people in attendance. While we certainly missed seeing everyone and making personal connections, there's no doubt that this virtual component will be a huge advantage for future chairs to learn more about their roles and duties well in advance of their own chairperson year. The orientation provided training on State Bar governance and structures, Keller constraints on the State Bar of Texas, how to work with the sections department, working with board advisors. And I will mention that we all are board advisors, and I encourage you to reach out, support your sections, attend their council meetings. And they're all by Zoom right now, so that's much more easily accessible for us to participate in those. The orientation also provided training on best practices for publishing newsletters and other publications, as well as financial policy, requirements, and expectations for treasurers. Our board colleague, Catherine Murphy, provided excellent training on the new board policy for State Bar sections that was passed at the June board meeting, including minimum standards and requirements that sections must maintain, new bylaws requirements, how the review process works and its potential outcomes. When we developed the new review process, it was based on an informal process that had worked well for many years. If a section was struggling, the section's reps would step in and advise and guide and generally address any issues. Last year, as a board advisor to the animal law section, we worked tirelessly to help them through some difficulties throughout the entire year, and these efforts have come to no avail. Soon after the June board meeting, where the reviews were passed, we officially noticed the Council of the Animal Law section that their section was under official review and that the review would continue through January 1st, 2020. Since June, they have been unable to come into compliance with board policy. Their chair has attempted to set a council meeting on about a half a dozen instances without any success. They have not held an annual meeting, elected new officers or council members, filed a budget, or filed the required financial policies and procedures with the State Bar Accounting Department. We will continue to try our best to rehabilitate this section, and if necessary, make further recommendations at the January board meeting. Thank you all again for your leadership on the board and in your sections as well, as the majority of you make combinations in both respects. And thank you, of course, to Tracy Knuckles and the State Bar staff for their help in maintaining the sections. This ends my report.
Thank you, Director Miller, and for the work that you're doing with our sections. And I know a lot of our sections are doing great work, and we'll look forward to your report in January. Brittany Harrison, Madam President of TYLA. Are you with us, Brittany?
I am still here.
Good to see you, and you've got the floor, Madam President.
All right, since looking at the hour here, I'm going to keep this brief, even though I could talk for a lot about all the different projects we have going on. But we had our September 11th board meeting for our first quarter. Our officers have been, or excuse me, our directors have been hard at work working on all these projects, and I'll just highlight a few of them. On the attorney wellness side, we have an ongoing virtual triathlon. September is the month for biking and October is for swimming. So if y'all want to join us, it's for everyone, not just young lawyers. We want all lawyers to join us in this fitness challenge, and you can join us and follow us on Strava. On the public service side, we have Court the Vote, which is an expansion of our Vote America project. We've disseminated push cards in both English and in Spanish to various governmental organizations and courts, as well as physical copies have been given out within the Harris County Detention Center to try and get as many people out to the polls to vote. For our Law Focused Education Committee, we have started working on our Texas Bar Foundation project, which is the iconic Women in Legal History. This project aims to highlight and explore the roles of various women that have helped shape our culture and advance civil rights and legal rights. And we definitely will be having a tribute to RBG on there because she's one of the most iconic women that we've had in our history. On the online member services front, we are going to be launching our Practice Area 101 podcast next month. We're going to highlight various practice areas, and we'll have 2 young lawyers featured as panelists on there to discuss the ins and outs of the practice. And also we plan to feature lawyers from all over the state, different, geographic areas, just so we can see what the common areas are in some of the bigger cities, and then also some of the common areas in some of the smaller cities. And our goal is to reach out to law students and other attorneys who might want to learn a little bit more about your area of practice. As I mentioned back in June, at the annual meeting, we created the Racial Justice Committee this year. And this committee is here to address racial injustice. And the main purposes are to inform the public about the struggle for racial justice in this country and this profession, provide resources for those wanting to learn about racial justice movements, anti-racism, and allyship, facilitate conversations in the community regarding these issues and looking for paths forward that provide justice and equality for all, and also to provide resources and information or informational materials to members of this profession that give perspectives of lawyers of color and also help move the profession to be more inclusive, diverse, and representational of the state's population. We're currently in the developmental stages of that, but we're looking forward to providing more updates. And finally, make sure y'all are all following us on social media. We've got Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, all that good stuff, so you can keep up with TYLA. That's all I have.
Thank you, Madam President. Man, if you don't get fired up listening about the great work that TYLA is doing, you got to get your pulse checked. You guys are awesome. I am so proud to be associated with you, Brittany, and partnership and whatever we can do, we'll do whatever we can, but it is just awesome seeing the work that you're doing. We will go now to our discussion liaisons, and we've already heard from Justice Lehrman and Judge Erie, so I believe Judge Les Hatch has the floor. Judge Hatch, are you with us?
I am, Charlie. Thank you. I think this is the first time that I've had a chance to visit with you other than roll call. So thanks for including me. I am your chair of the judicial section this year. I'm in Lubbock, Texas, 237th District Court. I have a very short report. We had at our annual meeting, we had our slate of officers approved on September 8th. Our new members are Frank Fraley, Fort Bend District Judge, Ron Rangel, San Antonio District Judge, and Rebecca Martinez, San Antonio Court of Appeals Justice. Elizabeth Earl is the chair-elect. She's County Court at Law in Travis County. And thank y'all for sending us Sherry Goldsberry and Christina Davis as the board liaisons, your board liaisons to our board, as I am the liaison from the section board to your board. I've got to say that I have been on all of these meetings so far, including the 2 special meetings. I had no idea, despite being 30 plus years as a practicing attorney in Texas, how much the state bar did. And it is eye-opening and it's quite impressive. So I'm continuing to learn, so bear with me, and I look forward to serving as your section liaison.
Judge Hatch, thank you for your report. We're glad to have you, and we're looking forward to this year. Thank you for being here very much. So I don't think we have a report from Ross Fisher. In fact, I know we don't because he told me no report. And I don't believe that we have a report from Denise Hoggard. So with that, here in just a few minutes, I'm going to ask Director Christina Davis to lead us in the our recitation of the mission statement. Before I do that, I want to thank you all for another meeting. Your dedication is appreciated. We are going to have our next meeting on January the 22nd of 2021. I know these meetings are long. I know they can cut into your schedule, and I know that we have had a lot of them lately, and I appreciate it. And thank you for that, and thank you for being here. We need you here, and you've answered the call, and it's a privilege to work with you and alongside you. To our staff, I haven't said it today, our staff is among the best in the nation. I don't know how to say it any other way. Thank you to them for making this possible. With that, Ms. Davis, if you've got the floor to lead us in our statement.
Thank you, Chair again. You all join me. The mission of the State Bar of Texas is to support the administration of the legal system, assure all citizens equal access to justice, high standards of ethical conduct for lawyers, enable its members to better serve their clients and the public, and promote diversity in the administration of justice, and promote diversity in the administration of justice and the practice of law.
Man, I can't wait till we get to do that in person again. Sick and Bears, thank you for being here. Go College football this weekend. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Texas Treasurer?
Yes.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Director Payne. All right, we're adjourned at 5:13 p.m. God bless you all. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Good night.